UNDZ 750 AM. During the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowitz, the rector of Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, executive director at the cathedral. Also, I've asked Michael May, for those that would like to watch live stream, you can go to the Archdiocese Chicago Facebook page or youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Michael, is that right? I actually got that right, Mark. How are you?
We look much younger on radio, but please tune in.
Please tune in, but all those are just words to me. I'm just wouldn't know how to do it. So how's your weekend, Mark?
Oh, good. We baptized our little guy, James Mark.
It says 2 baptisms within a month.
Yeah. How blessed we are. And the baptism just finished, and that torrential rain started, and a tornado warning in Edgebrook, which is where St. Gertrude's is. So,
you mean Edgewater?
I mean Edgewater. Yeah.
Yeah, Edgebrook was same where the woods.
Oh yeah,
and,
Edgebrook is. Yeah.
It really poured like crazy on Saturday, and we keep in prayer the horrific collapse of that building in Miami. I think it was last Thursday, and the odds of finding someone alive at this point.
Very
the crews
slim.
are working round the clock to find survivors, but as they move rubble, they're afraid of like dominoes, of other pieces of rubble collapsing, and they have those underneath fires going on. So it looks like 150 people still unaccounted for.
And it's an international effort to try to save those folks.
Yeah, so please keep in prayer. We have a great program lined up, 312-255-8408. In the first segment, The Long Goodbye, Ministry for Men with Spouses Suffering with Dementia. Our guest, Deacon Jim Lorbach and Jim Ainsley. So Deacon John, and Jim, welcome to the program this morning. How are you gentlemen doing?
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome.
Nice to be here, gentlemen.
Now, Deacon John, you belong to what parish?
I belong to St. Raymond, the Pennafort in Mount Prospect.
Oh, sure. I was born and raised in Park Ridge, and my first assignment was Church of the Holy Spirit in Schaumburg, so kind of in between. And Jim, where are you from?
I go to Thomas Becket in Mount Prospect.
Oh, so
you're neighbors almost.
Yeah, you're almost neighbors there. And I find this to be a fascinating program topic, Ministry for Men with Spouses Suffering with Dementia. Either John or Jim, how did this group begin?
Well, it began by me searching for answers as I experience this kind of life now for us as a couple. And I found online support groups, but they really didn't help me because men would get on there and share for a little bit and then disappear. And I wanted to be able to meet with other men experiencing the same issues that I have or going through. And someone at the parish said, well, why don't you start a group? Well, I just put this out and offered to meet with other husbands, actually at a local restaurant. So we were off the church campus. And in this restaurant, we invited anybody, any husband who was going through living this new life for us, to gather and to support each other. No one has the answers, of course, but we do gather and we share.
And Jim, what about you? How did you get connected?
Someone told me that John had organized this, and I made contact with John, and he invited me to attend. And as John said, originally we were meeting at a local restaurant, and that worked out well until the pandemic came along.
Now, I had a question for both of you. If you don't think it's too intrusive, how did this occur? How did the dementia, the signs
begin?
Pardon me?
The beginnings.
Yeah, the beginnings of, how you noticed things were changing in your relationship.
John?
Jim, you want to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah, John.
Somebody.
Either one. Flip a coin.
Well, for us, it somebody had once said, if you're going to notice a change, a problem, it probably would be through financial reasons rather than medical reasons.
Wow.
Because you don't see the medical sliding into this relationship as quickly as a financial. And that's exactly what happened, where it's very common for somebody with dementia to obtain many, many credit cards in max amount, which is what happened with us.
Wow.
And I never knew it because it was always in her name. I never saw the mail. I never saw the bills. I never saw she was not paying the bills until all of a sudden, you have a financial crash at home. Then something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
How about for you? What's your story, Jim?
Yeah, interestingly, the same thing. My wife had kept our checking account record for years, for decades, and she was very conversant in those kinds of things. And fairly suddenly, she was having difficulty reconciling the account, and I'd sit and try and assist her, and I realized she was really having considerable difficulty, and I took over keeping the account and paying the bills and so forth, but I hadn't had to give it a thought for years. The other thing I noticed in driving around, and my wife was an excellent driver and navigator. We lived in Boston for a number of years, and if you visited Boston, you know what a difficult city that is to navigate. She never had any problem. And we had moved back here, and she was having difficulty recalling where things were located. And at one point, I asked her about it, and she said, oh, well, at the time we had been living out in the Las Vegas area, and she said, oh, we lived in the desert, everything's wide open. The seasons change here, things look different from time to time. I'll get used to it. And she didn't. So those were two initial cues that I had that something was awry.
We're going to take a little break. WNDZ 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago. You can also find us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago or on the Archdiocesan Facebook. We're speaking with Jim Ansley and Deacon John Lorbach, and we'll continue our conversation on their support group, The Long Goodbye, the Ministry for Men with Spouses Suffering from Dementia. We will be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Do you have a gently used laptop or desktop computer that is gathering dust in your home? Consider donating to our Catholic Charities Veterans Computer Project. We will clean out your device, give it new software, and repurpose it for a veteran who is looking for employment. Your gift will make an incredible difference in a veteran's ability to find a job. Catholic Charities provides veteran services throughout Lake and suburban Cook counties, giving participants an array of professional and personal support. Our veterans have served our country, and it is our privilege to serve them. To learn more about Catholic Charities Veterans Services and the Veterans Computer Project, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
I feel special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
We're back, Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM. On your dial, on YouTube, we're at youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, or you can find us on the Archdiocese of Chicago Facebook page. Father Greg, back to you.
A question for either John or Jim. First of all, this is a very important topic today. And so either for Jim or John, when you saw the early signs of dementia, but you weren't able to name it at that point, what did you do and how did you react? And what steps were you taking at that point? Because, dementia to me is like almost sometimes tackling fog.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can see it sometimes, but you really don't. It's like breaking an arm, you see a cast. But dementia, the early signs can be so, again, it's like tackling fog. So John or Jim, how did you respond? Did you think this was just your wife was having a bad day, a bad week, a bad month?
I think you begin to see little signs. I don't think you catch them at first. We all have, and we call them senior moments. But when begins a pattern, for instance, my wife was having trouble sometimes driving home from work. She would get lost. She'd turn the opposite way and go, south instead of north. Little things like that, and then they get bigger and bigger. And usually someone else points it out to you because you're so close to it that you miss a lot of the signs. By the time we, addressed it with the doctors and that, you're already, and it's quite common, you're already into the disease quite far.
Interesting. How about for you, Jim?
The spouses very often, and the family often misses the signs.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Jim, I don't know what your experience was.
Yeah, very, very much. There are small things. And initially, I didn't want to certainly alarm my wife. And I just paid attention and watched for a while. My wife's brother happened to be visiting from out of town, and I mentioned it to him privately. And his response was, well, she seems fine to me. And I said, well, I'm around her all the time, and I notice things. And I continued to just watch. And at some point, I brought it privately to the attention of our primary care physician, who had seen her several times over the course of this and hadn't noticed anything till I pointed it out. And the physician then did examine my wife and came back and said, yes, she is having memory problems. But that was at a point actually about 4 years after the first signs that I had.
So 4 years after the initial thinking.
I beg your pardon?
4 years after the initial thinking something was going on.
Yes, it was 4 years. And
wow.
She had seen her physician, and the physician hadn't picked it up. But my wife was a very engaging, kind of social person. And if I happened to be in the room and the physician asked a question and she didn't remember, she'd say, oh, Jimmy, what is that medication? You know, she'd call
deflected.
upon me. So she made her way through things pretty well for a while.
Now, when the
I
diagnosis,
also noticed a mood change very much.
How so, John?
All of a sudden there was anger and aggression, and that just was not her. And so that was a sign to me too.
now when you got the diagnosis, just walk through that process. How did your wives react to the diagnosis, and what were the first steps in terms of dealing with this disease?
As far as my wife, she has never acknowledged the disease. She's not even aware of it. That's why I consider it almost a third party that enters into the marriage. It isn't her dealing with this disease. It's the disease that is coming in and changing everything for us.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we've never ever acknowledged it or talked about it, because even during her tests, the cognitive test, she would be so concerned about getting the right answer. And then when they finally asked what year it was, it was 1957.
Oh.
And
Jim,
she never even realized she had said that.
Wow. So, Jim, what about you?
The physician, after she had identified something going on with my wife and had done some initial testing to rule out things, had done an MRI, these kinds of things, she sat down with my wife and me and attempted to bring it up with her. And I finally said, I think what the doctor is trying to say is that, like many people, as we get on in life, we can develop some memory problems, have a little more difficulty remembering things. And I remember my wife sitting there and saying, my memory is fine, as it's always been, sort of end of subject. And she never brought it up again as things proceeded.
Now, with that in mind, you have this group called The Long Goodbye, which is a ministry for men with spouses suffering with dementia. How are the gatherings structured, John, and how often do you meet?
Very, very casually. We invite men from all over. It's not a parish-run ministry, although St. Raymond's really supports it. I'm also part of the interfaith group of Mount Prospect and of the Northwest Suburbs. So I advertise, get the flyer out everywhere, and we welcome anyone who wishes to come in and just sit with us. We men don't really share very well, but in a sacred spot, like a restaurant, in the middle of a restaurant, we do open up and we do say, wait a minute, I experienced that. And so that we just gather. Sometimes it's over a drink. Sometimes, very often, we have dinner and we just sit and talk. And in the relaxed atmosphere and environment, you can open up a little bit. Men come in and men leave. We don't take attendance and we don't take names. We just gather for that time. Someone once said, "Feed the lambs, don't count them." And so I always keep that in mind.
I like that.
We invite everybody in, and they take what they need, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And we're all at different stages.
Yes,
I would say I'm in. We're now in midterm of dementia. My wife has vascular dementia, which is different than Alzheimer's, and she has had 2 strokes already. And Jim's wife, you want to tell about Jill?
Yes.
Well, let's do this. Let's take
go to a break. We need to go to a break.
Let's take a little break, and Jim, when we come back, we'll hear your story. WNDZ, 7:50 a.m., Catholic Chicago. You can see us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago and the Archdiocesan Facebook page. You can find us. We'll be back in a few minutes. We're talking about The Long Goodbye, a ministry for men with spouses suffering with dementia. We're with Deacon John Lorbach and with Jim Ansley. And Jim, when we come back, you'll share your story. Thanks. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
The 27th Annual Catholic Charities Golf Classic will take place on July 19th, and you are cordially invited to attend. Gather your friends and work colleagues for this fabulous event that will take place on two beautiful golf courses, Shore Acres in Lake Bluff and Knollwood Club in Lake Forest. Proceeds will benefit Catholic Charities programs and services in Lake County. All state and CDC guidelines will be followed, and registrations are filling up quickly. Call 847-814-3839 today. That's 847-814-3839. Thank you on behalf of everyone we serve in Lake County.
The Word Made Clear is exactly what its name implies. It's an easy-to-understand explanation of the Word of God, the Gospel. Hello, I'm Father James McElhone, Director of Biblical Formation for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I'd like to invite you to take our free online Bible study program by going to thewordmadeclear.org. Our website offers an audio-based guide to the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Listen to my lectures and follow along with the handouts provided. There are even discussion guides. You can also explore the biblical roots of the Mass. And there are links to a wide variety of biblical sources that will benefit both teachers and students of the sacred scriptures. Just go to wordmadeclear.org to experience our free online Bible study program. Again, it's free at wordmadeclear.org. It's the Word of God. Enjoy.
We're back, Catholic Chicago, WNDZ 750 AM on your radio, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, and you can find us also on the Archdiocesan Facebook. We're talking about The Long Goodbye, the ministry for men with spouses suffering with dementia. And Jim, before the break, John had told us a little bit about once the diagnosis occurred, how that happened. How did his wife relate to it? What about you? How did that happen for you?
Well, as I mentioned, eventually about 4 years after I had noticed something being awry, I raised it with my wife's primary care physician, who confirmed that there was something amiss. And I would say, perhaps unlike many other terminal illnesses, this can stretch out for a long time. I first noticed something with my wife back in 2010, and she passed away last summer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And she might have continued longer. She was in a memory care unit at that point and succumbed to COVID, actually.
Wow.
So she was a
So
victim
sorry.
of that. But she had gone on for about 10 years and gradually lost ground, deteriorated. Her essential personality remained, but she was just not attuned to where she was or what the circumstances of her illness were. And I never actually thought it important at all to try and impress upon her what was going on. I don't think it would have been beneficial to her at all. I think it would have actually been detractive, maybe frightened her. So we just went along, and she seemed to accept things as they were.
Now, could I ask both of you, as a husband, with an identity with my wife, your wives, did they, either of them, did they know who you were, or did they know who you are? How do you deal with that identity shift in the marriage?
Mm-hmm. And that is a big issue. The person you knew and love, and that is not there anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's an issue that we talk about with intimacy and that among ourselves. We have one gentleman who's been with us for a long time. His wife doesn't remember him as he is now. She only remembers the young man she married years ago.
Wow.
And that causes a lot of pain, too, because one night she said, you have to leave. And he says, I live here. And she called 911, and he had to explain everything and who he was to the police. And I recently spoke to a woman who had that happen with her husband, calling the police.
Wow.
And so in their minds, they're just dating, so time to go home.
Time that is not only the illness, not only finances, but it's all the things that enter into the marriage and completely changes it.
How about
and we can't go to our children about that. And so that's why we gather as husbands alone. Only what Jim shares with me will help me, because I'm saying, yes, I'm experiencing that, and I haven't seen that myself. What did you do? And we can lift each other.
Since we are running out of time, John or Jim, when is the next meeting, and how can some of our listeners participate and join?
We are in the process of finding a new location. We find it much better to be out in a restaurant situation where we can be off in the corner and we can share and still relax. So we haven't quite nailed that because our restaurant closed because of the COVID pandemic.
Which restaurant were you meeting at?
We're out there looking for a new place right now.
Okay, but now if someone...
So perhaps if someone emailed me.
And what would be your email address? John?
My email address is JLORBACH, that's J Lorbach, at st-raymond.org.
One more time.
JLORBACH at st-raymond, RAYMOND.org.
I want to thank in a very special way Deacon John Lorbach and Jim Ainsley, who started a ministry, the Long Goodbye Ministry for Men with Spouses Suffering with Dementia. John and Jim, this has been an outstanding program.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing a part of your journey and story with all of us, and our prayers are with you. I've been a priest 42 years, Mark. I've never even heard of this type of ministry.
No.
Which, when you think about it, is so much needed, a support group for men with wives with dementia.
And I love your line, feed my sheep, don't count them.
Don't count them.
So, very wise nun told me that.
I like that. So you're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi, will be back in a few minutes. And again, do not touch that dial.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed. If you or someone you know needs assistance, email us at gethelp@catholiccharities.net. That's gethelp@catholiccharities.net. Or call 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
Catholic Charities Schreiber Center for Human Services is now open in Round Lake. Due to the pandemic, we are limited in the number of in-person programs that we currently can provide. However, a food pantry is open twice a week, and a Wednesday night supper is held with to-go meals every week. A wide range of senior services are now offered as well. If we can assist you or someone you know, please call us at 847-546-5733. That's 847-546-5733. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the Archdiocese of Chicago presents programming about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, along with Mark Therese. You can also find us. Go to Archdiocese of Chicago Facebook page or youtube.com/Catholic Chicago to watch us live stream. And Mark, that was a riveting first half hour.
Powerful.
With Deacon John and Jim for
and what a real ministerial need for our folks.
And just a powerful, needed ministry at this time in our world. And second half of the program is a tremendous program also lined up. The Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton is coming to Chicago. The 40th annual Chesterton Conference will be held in Lisle, Illinois, this coming July 29, 30, 31. It's an in-person and a virtual event. Our guest on radio, Dale Ahlquist. Dale, welcome to the program. How are you, Dale?
Thank you, Father Greg. God bless you. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
And now you are from where right now? Calling from where?
I'm in Minneapolis right now.
Is that home for you?
Yes, I was born and raised in the Twin Cities. Yes.
Now, wait, an important question. Are you a Minnesota Vikings fan?
Well, I was.
Until this program, or no?
I stopped caring a while ago about all football because my life improved immediately. Having Sunday afternoons to myself again was just a great breakthrough.
Dale, I really like you because I suffer from the same problem with being a Chicago Bears fan. I could free up my Sunday afternoons and not suffer like the years we did with the Vikings. And listen, G.K. Chesterton is a name most of us have heard the name. But a lot of people would say, not quite sure who he was. So tell us about his life in a nutshell.
Yeah, in a nutshell, Chesterton during his lifetime, early 20th century, was one of the most popular writers in the world, certainly well known everywhere, known for his great wit, his great wisdom, his great joy, and just a character as well. But one of the things that was quite notable about his life was that in 1922, he converted to Catholicism and was really one of the most famous Catholic converts in the world. After his death in 1936, he slowly faded from the public eye and his great worldwide fame. But in the last 20 years, there's been a great revival of interest in Chesterton's writing because of the fact that he's so prophetic. He seems to be writing about the days we live in now, even though he was writing 100 years ago. And of course,
Give us one example. Give us one example.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, think about this one. We are learning to do a great many clever things. The next thing we're going to have to learn is not to do them. He
like
says
that.
our chief peril is not attack, it is decay.
Wow, very timely.
Yeah.
Now,
How about this?
Now he wrote this. He did write this 100 years ago.
Yeah, 100 years ago. That's right. And he talked about the attack on the family, that if the family starts to decay or anything, if the family weakens, the whole society weakens, because the family is the foundation of any strong society. And so he identified all the different attacks on the family 100 years ago: divorce, birth control, sexual perversion, and those things really weren't being noticed then, and he brought them to the forefront.
Now,
100 years ago.
Dale, can you give us a thumbnail sketch on that conversion journey that he had? How did?
Well, yeah, sure. It was a long, deliberate, and intellectual conversion. In fact, a lot of Chesterton's writings before his conversion sound Catholic. There's nothing really that contradicts a Catholic understanding of the world and of truth. In fact, one of his most famous books is Orthodoxy, written before his conversion, and yet you can't tell that it's not a Catholic book. And so it was very long and deliberate. But I think when he was asked why he became Catholic, his answer was the best. He said, "To get rid of my sins."
Oh.
Now, when he was born in what year, Dale?
1874.
Was he born into a particular faith or raised with no faith?
Raised with no faith at all. So his first conversion experience was to become a Christian, and he became an Anglican at that point. And that's the story of him becoming a Christian is really what's told in Orthodoxy, and then it continues his he called it his incomplete conversion when he joined the Anglican Church, and then in 1922 he joined the Catholic Church.
Question: do any of his writings in his early years talk about something missing in his life? Because a lot of times people who convert to Catholicism say, "There's been something missing in my life, and the journey has led me now to the RCIA program and conversion." Do any of his writings reflect that?
Well, he definitely described his conversion as a completion of a journey. He also described his conversion as the beginning of a journey. And, he says that's when he really started to become a thinker. And this is an intellectual giant. And he says, to become Catholic does not mean leaving off thinking. It means learning how to think.
We're going to take a little break, Dale. WNDZ 750 AM Catholic Chicago. You can also find us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, the Archdiocesan Facebook. Dale, when we come back, I'm going to ask you, how did you get connected to G.K. Chesterton? I wonder about that.
Your
journey.
story.
Yeah, we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
The 27th Annual Catholic Charities Golf Classic will take place on July 19th, and you are cordially invited to attend. Gather your friends and work colleagues for this fabulous event that will take place on two beautiful golf courses, Shore Acres in Lake Bluff and Knollwood Club in Lake Forest. Proceeds will benefit Catholic Charities programs and services in Lake County. All state and CDC guidelines will be followed, and registrations are filling up quickly. Call 847-814-3839 today. That's 847-814-3839. Thank you on behalf of everyone we serve in Lake County.
The Word Made Clear is exactly what its name implies. It's an easy-to-understand explanation of the Word of God, the Gospel. Hello, I'm Father James McElhone, Director of Biblical Formation for the Archdiocese of Chicago. I'd like to invite you to take our free online Bible study program by going to thewordmadeclear.org. Our website offers an audio-based guide to the Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. Listen to my lectures and follow along with the handouts provided. There are even discussion guides. You can also explore the biblical roots of the Mass. And there are links to a wide variety of biblical sources that will benefit both teachers and students of the sacred scriptures. Just go to wordmadeclear.org to experience our free online Bible study program. Again, it's free at wordmadeclear.org. It's the Word of God. Enjoy.
We're back, Catholic Chicago, 7:50 a.m. YouTube, you can find us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago or the Archdiocesan Facebook. We're talking about the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton coming to Chicago for their 40th Annual Chesterton Conference. Dale Ahlquist is with us. Your journey to G.K. Chesterton, what do you think?
Short. I was former Baptist, and G.K. Chesterton himself, a convert, a maker of converts as well. And a lot of people who read Chesterton find themselves being drawn to the Catholic faith, and he certainly did that with me. I was an evangelical. I was a big C.S. Lewis fan, and you quickly realize that the force behind C.S. Lewis is G.K. Chesterton.
Oh.
So that's the short story, and I think it fits in well with what we're going to be doing with our conference this summer. I know that's one of the things we're going to be talking about here, but the Chesterton Conference will feature some speakers that will talk about some of the connections between Chesterton and C.S. Lewis, Chesterton and Cardinal Newman, and other major thinkers, and how Chesterton actually presents a link with some of these guys.
Now, Dale, let me read this. It's the theme is The Laughing Prophet, focusing on the virtues of G.K. Chesterton, and in particular how he brings hope and joy in the midst of chaos, or in the midst of this crazy world, common sense, humility, humor, gratitude. All that is part of this 3-day conference?
Yeah, it sounds like you should come, Father, because it sounds like a great conference, doesn't it?
It sounds like a fantastic conference. And now tell us about some of the speakers.
Yeah, one of the converts is a very notable one, Joseph Pierce, a prolific writer. He wrote a biography of Chesterton. He's written biographies of Solzhenitsyn and Oscar Wilde and Tolkien and other major figures. His own conversion story is very dramatic. He was a former skinhead thug in England, and wow. Chesterton really turned his life around and brought him to the Catholic faith. A dynamic speaker with a Cockney accent. Be warned, that's the full disclosure there. Another convert who will be speaking is a former rock and roll journalist and headline writer for the New York Post, who's now a Catholic theologian and a Jewish convert besides, and that's Dawn Eden Goldstein, and she's going to talk about her conversion. We have a former Pixar animator who now works for a major media giant. I don't think we're allowed to say who it is, but Mark Matthews is going to talk about Chesterton and artificial intelligence. It'll be really good. And for those who are fans of my old television show, The Apostle of Common Sense on EWTN, which is now in reruns. I think it's been in reruns as long as Gilligan's Island. We're going to have Chuck Chalberg, who portrays Chesterton. He'll be there as Chesterton himself.
Oh,
but
wonderful!
Really, the highlight of the conference this year is a speaker who is the founder and CEO of the Babylon Bee, Seth Dillon. And if anybody is a fan of satire out there, the Babylon Bee is a really popular podcast with satirical headlines and stories. Chesterton himself was a master of satire, and this has become a very popular podcast. And they always are invoking Chesterton prophetic quotations, and he's always underlying so many of the things that they talk about on the show. So we're really happy to have Seth Dillon as one of our speakers at the conference.
Dale, I need to ask you this question. How has G.K. Chesterton touched and affected and changed your life?
Well, my life, I would say there's three main things, of course. First of all, my conversion. He's brought me to the Catholic faith. He's certainly made himself a very good friend of mine, which is what saints are. They become your friends and your advocates, and it's one of the reasons why I'm promoting his cause for sainthood. And he's just been a great companion. He helps me think. He helps me focus on Christ, and he gives that sense of wonder and joy that is so essential, and a gratitude that fills your day and fills your life. But the third thing has become very important. I started a school about 13 years ago, Chesterton Academy. It's a classical Catholic school, and Chesterton is the patron of it. And we use Chesterton's thinking, in the school, along with Plato and Aristotle and Thomas Aquinas and St. John the Evangelist and papal encyclicals, as well as teaching art and music and drama and Latin and daily mass. And it's become a phenomenon of its own, so that the first school has now given birth to 50 schools around the country. Wonderful. And around the world.
So he's
amazing.
He's an evangelizer.
Amen. And Chesterton continues to be an evangelizer, and education is a form of evangelization, and that's the thing we've learned. We just are seeing lives change because of the schools that we've.
Two things I just want to say in that is two words you keep using: the conversion. And the best definition of conversion I ever heard is conversion is not so much the miracle of the moment, but the task of a lifetime. That we're always converting to something more and changing with the help and grace of God. Also, in just you look at your own life, Dale, someone can say to you, oh, what a coincidence you came upon the writings of G.K. Chesterton that changed your life. And the best definition of coincidence I ever heard is, a coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous, which I so love that definition. When someone says, oh, what a coincidence. No, for the believer, there's not a coincidence. It's God's weaving and threading through our lives. Mark, take us to break.
Right. So WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, YouTube.com/Catholic Chicago, Archdiocesan Facebook. Dale, when we come back, I'm going to ask you, a newbie, just hearing G.K. Chesterton, a listener today, why go to that conference, and what might they read of Chesterton before they come to the conference, just to get acquainted with their new friend? Mm-hmm. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship program provides a free opportunity for youth living in Lake County to spend time, virtually, with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youths age 9 to 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends and role models who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports each relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that is totally different from remote learning. Virtual group sessions help youth enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today. To learn more, call 312-937-3375. That's 312-937-3375.
Hey, it's Timothy Johnston here from Liturgy Training Publications. Over the past few months, I'm sure you've found yourself at home more, whether it's working from home or watching live stream masses on Sunday mornings. As we began adjusting to this at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the things I missed the most was gathering with friends at the parish. That's why we at LTP have created this new virtual gathering series called Living the Sunday Word. We meet virtually on Thursday evenings each week and reflect on the upcoming Sunday readings. And with that, we share stories to help us more fully reflect on the Word of God. I'm inviting each of you to join us, a group of friends meeting virtually from all parts of the country. So visit ltp.org for more information and to register. You won't want to miss this.
We're back, WNDZ, 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, or the Archdiocesan Facebook. You can find us, and we're talking with Dale Ahlquist about Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton. They're coming to Chicago, the 40th Annual Conference, July 29, 30, 31.
Hike. Oh, just a little football thought for a second.
And so as we come back, there are a lot of listeners here probably don't know G.K. Chesterton, but are now intrigued, Dale, by our conversation. Why go? Why go to this conference? Father Greg will talk more specifically about the mechanics of how to get there. But why go, and what might they read prior to going to the conference if they're intrigued with this, to give them a little base understanding of G.K.? I call him GK.
Yeah, you ready? And I call you okay, MT.
We could be on a friendly first name basis.
Right.
I think one of the easiest ways to get to know Chesterton is to go to our website, chesterton.org. There's a lot of introductory material there, including videos that people can watch and things to read, a list of quotations. He's very quotable, and that his great quotations are one of the best ways to get to know him, because you realize how he can encapsulate truth in just one sentence and thrill you with that. It's the 4th of July this coming weekend. A lot of people are going to go to fireworks displays. At the end of July, the Chesterton Conference, if you want to see some real fireworks, we're talking about intellectual fireworks that will help thrill you to the bone, much more thrilling than a fireworks display. A Chesterton Conference is the way to do it. You will be spurred to think about things that you haven't thought about before. It's a spiritual uplift. It's going to be funny. There'll be great moments of laughter. We'll go deep, we'll go broad, we'll go high. And the other thing is, people have got to get out again and start being together. And this is a live conference. You can actually be with other people.
Now,
it's a new
Dale,
concept.
Will this be live and or live stream?
Yeah, people can live stream if they want. That option is there, but it is a live event, and the gloves are off, the masks are off. We can start to be together again.
Now, again, give us more details. How do you register? What is the cost? Who's the contact person, and where do they go to?
Again, go to our website, chesterton.org, and there's a button for the conference you can go to right away. It explains how to register, and you can also how to register online if you want to watch the virtual conference. There's details on the hotel that is hosting it. It's the Sheraton Lisle in Naperville. And so we'll be filling up that hotel, and it's a great facility. So there's a fun food and fellowship there.
What is the cost for the weekend?
I don't know. You have to look that one up.
Just a little sidebar. You just thought I'd just toss it into.
Cheap.
It's the first question we've asked you
It's
didn't know.
cheap.
It's cheap. I like that answer.
Now, I had a question. That graphic is a great graphic. I mean, it gives you a sense of the spirit of the conference. Who's the artist that did that? I love that graphic.
Yeah, he's our art director. His name is Ted Schlunderfritz, and he's the art director for Gilbert magazine. If you join the Chesterton Society, you get Gilbert magazine, which is the best magazine in the world, and that's one of the reasons why is for Ted's art.
Now, also,
well
the other
done.
question I had when they showed the headliners, you had a cardinal involved. The religious have really taken to Chesterton as an inspiration. Could you explain who's involved and why is he involved?
A couple of years ago, we had the Cardinal of Toronto as a speaker at our conference, Thomas Collins, and he's a huge Chesterton fan. But we will have he won't be there live, but he'll be videoed in. Archbishop Bashir Warda of Erbil, Iraq. Of course, we have the Iraqi bishop, who's also a Chesterton fan.
Wow.
Speaking at our conference.
Dale, how did you find him?
It's,
That's
weren't
amazing.
you talking about coincidences, Father?
Yeah.
It's a spiritual pun. That's what Chesterton describes. But he was looking to get a Catholic high school started, and we happened to make a connection, and we're helping him start a Chesterton Academy in Erbil, Iraq.
That is just absolutely amazing.
It really is. Now, what about, I'm intrigued here, Lydia Webster is going to be a speaker, and her senior thesis, so a college person's senior thesis, The Man Who Would Not Die, Irrational Optimism in the Life and Writings of G.K. Chesterton. Give us a little background on Lydia. That's fascinating to me.
Yeah, this points to a very interesting phenomenon. The Chesterton revival is truly a ground-up, grassroots revival. It's not being imposed. It's not college professors that are reintroducing Chesterton. It's the students themselves who are studying Chesterton, and they have to go out and find advisors because a whole generation didn't study Chesterton, and they're the ones who are the teachers now. But it's the students who are discovering Chesterton, and this young lady, Lydia Webster, has done a marvelous senior thesis, and we're going to show how Chesterton connects with young people and just resonates with them. And so she's done a marvelous thesis, and she'll be sharing that. Very accessible, but like I say, it's going to get your brain working too.
Wonderful.
I want to thank in a very special way our guest today, Dale Ahlquist. We have the Society of Gilbert Keith Chesterton coming to Chicago. The 40th annual Chesterton Conference will be held in Lisle, July 29, 30, 31. Dale, you've been a magnificent, phenomenal guest. We could have had you for the full hour. And so thank you for joining us today on the program, Catholic Chicago. Thank you also to co-host Mark Teresi. Great job of our producer engineers, Michael May, Brian Hockey, Hitman Brock. To all of our listeners, may God bless you. Have a blessed week. It's hard to believe that next weekend is a July 4th weekend. Please drive safely. Keep all in prayer, especially those suffering the losses in Miami. God bless. Great week.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.